Mary Kay Kid has watched the Browns long enough to recognize the signs. And when she points out that Shedeur Sanders has the tools to start right now, it raises a challenge the organization isn't ready to face. With a polished throwing game, standout discipline, and undeniable football IQ, Sanders fits the mold of a modern franchise quarterback. But Cleveland's leadership seems committed to obscuring that reality.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Kit's observations cut through the fog of PR spin. This isn't about development timelines. It's about institutional fear. Sanders is prepared. The Browns are not. Instead of adapting to talent, the organization is hiding behind vague narratives and cautious language that masks a deeper distrust in its own decision-making. When respected voices and internal evaluations converge on one truth, that Sanders is ready, continued delay isn't just conservative, it's cowardly. The Browns have a chance to lead boldly, but they're choosing to retreat behind strategy that keeps them stuck. The Cleveland Browns aren't just fumbling the football, they're fumbling the truth. The situation with Shedeur Sanders is no longer just a debate about player development. It's a case study in dysfunction, ego management, and what happens when a franchise is more committed to controlling a narrative than winning football games. Let's start with what we do know. Sanders is ready. That's not speculation. That's a consensus from people who actually matter. Analysts, insiders like Mary Kay Kid, and even players in the Browns' own locker room. He's shown maturity, poise, and the kind of precision you want from a starting quarterback. This isn't some raw prospect they're trying to polish over the next 3 seasons. He's ready to lead right now. So why isn't he? Because the Cleveland Browns are caught in a spiral of internal politics and leadership fear. The issue isn't talent. It's trust. This organization has developed a reputation for chaos, for poor decision-making, and for stalling out its own future. With Shedeur, it's playing out in real time. The Browns are delaying his playing time under the guise of development, while spinning contradictory stories about his readiness. One day, it's he's coming along well. The next, it's we need to see more. Then it's he's not quite ready yet. Followed by someone else praising his work ethic and control in practice. They're creating confusion on purpose, because confusion is easier to manage than accountability. Garrett Bush laid it all out. The franchise is not seriously evaluating Sanders as a quarterback. They're treating him like a placeholder, not a real option, not someone to build a team around. Just a backup storyline they can shelve and unbox later, if it's politically convenient. That's not football. That's narrative control. And it's not just the media noticing. There's tension in the building. When you got players like Myles Garrett expressing support, you can't chalk that up to coincidence. Veterans backing a young quarterback sends a message. It means they believe in his ability. It means they're ready for change. And when players start speaking through actions and quiet support, it means they've already lost faith in the front office's decision-making. That's where things get, because now this isn't just about Sanders. It's about what he represents. He's a symbol of what the Browns could become if they stopped operating from fear. But instead of leaning into that potential, they're retreating into old habits. Favoritism, denial, and spin tactics. It's not just incompetence anymore. It's sabotage, disguised as caution. The leadership's unwillingness to let Sanders lead isn't about his ability. It's about what his success would reveal. If he plays well, if he wins games, if he energizes a team, then the spotlight shifts. Then people start asking real questions. Why wasn't he playing earlier? Who was pushing for other options? Why did this team bury its best chance at momentum? The Browns don't want those questions asked, so they stall. They release half-truths. They keep the public conversation muddy. It's not because they're evaluating the quarterback position. It's because they're protecting ownership, in particular, has a long history of choosing control over competitiveness. The Browns have missed out on player after player because of their inability to relinquish ego in favor of talent. The fear isn't that Shedeur will disappoint. The fear is that he'll disrupt everything they've built to protect their own reputations. And let's be clear, this isn't just frustrating. It's dangerous. Because when fans, players, and media are all aligned in calling out the problem, and leadership still refuses to move, the franchise starts to fracture. You lose trust. You lose buy-in. You lose the belief that things will ever change. We've seen this before. The Browns have a long pattern of misreading talent, mismanaging development, and letting other teams capitalize on their mistakes. Whether it's quarterbacks, coaches, or coordinators, once they leave Cleveland, suddenly they flourish. Because the issue isn't the talent, it's the environment. And unless something changes, Sanders is on that path. A quarterback with elite traits, proven discipline, and veteran backing is being smothered by fear-based leadership. And if the Browns continue to delay, they'll lose him too. The warning signs are all there. Analysts are growing louder. The fan base is restless. And internally, support for Sanders is clear. There is no good faith football reason for him to still be sitting. The only thing keeping him off the field is Cleveland's obsession with controlling how they're perceived. That's the most damning part. Because good teams don't operate like this. Good teams take the best players and put them in position to win. They don't build PR strategies to delay the obvious. They don't gaslight fans. They don't let internal distrust become the reason their season implodes. This is how franchises stall for years. And for what? To protect a failing system? To avoid uncomfortable admissions? The longer they wait, the more obvious it becomes. They're not managing talent. They're managing damage. And the damage is spreading. Every game Sanders doesn't play is another week of wasting time, wasting trust, and wasting the prime years of a team that wants to win but isn't being allowed to. You can't keep telling a locker room to stay patient when they're watching Solution wear a red practice jersey every day and still not take a snap. And make no mistake, this is a locker room that knows. These guys aren't blind. They know who's sharp. They know who's showing up in practice. And when that player isn't given a fair shot, they stop believing in the people making those decisions. That's what we're seeing now. There's a trust deficit in Cleveland, one that leadership is doing nothing to close. In fact, every delay, every press conference filled with vague deflections just widens that gap. You can't build a championship team when your players don't believe that meritocracy exists inside the building. Do you want a turning point? Start Shedeur. Stop running from what's obvious. Stop dressing up cowardice as strategy. Stop expecting fans to sit through another season of what-ifs and wait-and-sees. This isn't about rushing someone into a bad situation. This is about refusing to let someone transform a broken one. The Browns have reached a point where continuing to suppress Sanders does more harm than any interception ever could. Because this isn't about stats. It's about direction. And right now, Cleveland's headed in reverse. The longer they hold him back, the clearer it becomes that this isn't about what's best for the team. It's about what's safest for the people in charge. It's about avoiding accountability. And in doing so, they're risking their future. There's still time to change that. Still time to stop the bleeding. But only if they act. Because the more they delay, the more irreversible this becomes. And when Sanders ends up starting somewhere else, thriving under real leadership, turning into the player he was always meant to be, don't expect sympathy. Don't expect a fan base to stay loyal. Don't expect a locker room to keep believing. Expect the same thing you've always gotten: disappointment. If you're done watching this team sabotage itself, if you're done with spin over substance, hit that like button, leave your thoughts below, and make sure you're subscribed. Because when the Browns finally run out of excuses, and they will, you'll want to be here when the truth finally hits the field. The Cleveland Browns have built a reputation, not for winning, not for development, but for wasting potential. And right now, no name better represents that waste than Shedeur Sanders. This isn't about giving a young player time to adjust. That narrative has expired. This is about an organization more committed to protecting its fragile internal structure than investing in the obvious future sitting right there in the quarterback room. And let's not mince words. The Browns are scared. Not scared of failure. Scared of being proven wrong. Scared of change. Scared of losing control. Because if Shedeur succeeds, the narrative collapses. All the months of spin, the vague press conferences, the thinly veiled excuses gone. The moment Sanders steps on that field and starts delivering, it exposes a rot. It shows that the Browns knew he was capable and chose to sit on it. Chose to preserve egos over progress. And when that happens, people start pointing fingers. That's the moment the power structure starts to crack. So they stall. They hide behind development, which at this point is just code for don't mess with the plan. Except the plan isn't working. The offense is stale. The fans are fed up. And the players? They're starting to speak with their eyes and their body language, if not yet their voices. Because when veterans in your locker room, like Myles Garrett, are supporting Sanders, that's not noise. That's leadership saying, we're not buying anymore. That's pressure from the inside, and it's far more dangerous to a franchise than anything coming from outside media or fans. Let's call it what it is. The Browns are running scared from their own quarterback. They see the maturity. They know about the accuracy. They've heard the whispers. The media insiders aren't pulling. This from thin air. Mary Kay Kit doesn't go out on a limb unless there's something solid behind it. Shedeur's not just doing well in practice. He's making it undeniable. But instead of leaning into it, the Browns have chosen to suppress it. Because again, success from Sanders wouldn't just elevate the team. It would call into question every recent quarterback decision they've made. And that would mean people in the building taking accountability. We've seen how allergic this franchise is to that. And look, we've seen teams protect their investments before. That's not new. But Cleveland takes it to another level. It's not just about protecting a previous starter. It's about maintaining an illusion that they've got under control, that the system works, that there's a grand plan at play. But the fans, they see right through it. The longer Sanders sits, the more obvious it becomes that there is no plan, just avoidance. And that's what turns this from a management misstep into an outright... Because once you lose the trust of your fan base, once the locker room starts side-eyeing leadership, once analysts are no longer asking if Shedeur is ready, but why he hasn't started, you're no longer dealing with a football issue. You're in full-blown organizational dysfunction. And let's not pretend this is a one-off. The Browns have a documented history of this exact behavior. Whether it's talent mismanagement, poor communication, or straight-up fear of disruption, they've done it before, and they're doing it again. They love to talk about culture, about building from within, about development and alignment. But what kind of culture are you building when you won't even trust your most prepared players? What does alignment mean if it requires silencing a potential star to keep a fragile hierarchy in? This is a team afraid of the very thing that could save it. It's one thing to wait on a player. It's another thing to actively block his rise. And right now, the Browns are doing everything they can to avoid what everyone else sees coming. Shedeur Sanders should be the starting quarterback. Not next season. Not sometime soon. Right now, they've turned the situation into a test. Not of Sanders, but of their own integrity. Because each week they delay, each excuse they offer, they lose just a little more trust. Not only with the public, but with the people inside the building. That trust is already thin. And if they think they can keep tiptoeing around this without consequence, they're wrong. This isn't a fan base that's going to tolerate watching another season swirl down the drain, while talent is kept on ice for reasons no one can justify. This isn't a locker room that's going to stay quiet forever. This is the type of situation that festers. That leads to players questioning leadership. That makes other young talents wonder if they'll be next. That creates an environment of caution, of fear, of second-guessing, when what the team needs is decisiveness and belief. What's wild is the Browns don't even realize how much damage they're doing by not acting. Every game Shedeur doesn't start as a message that merit doesn't matter. That potential means nothing. That playing the game behind the scenes is more important than the game on the field. And if they're not careful, that message will define the season. Not just for fans, but for every player who's looking around and asking, what are we doing here? It's not just the on-field product that suffers. It's the entire foundation of team identity. When you're more committed to controlling the story than actually changing the outcome, that's not leadership. That's cowardice. The Browns have a choice. They can keep hiding, keep spinning, keep trying to delay the moment of truth, or they can finally do what should have been done already. Unleash Shedeur Sanders and let the game speak for it. Because here's the reality. If they wait too long, they won't just lose games. They'll lose the very player they're trying to keep under control. And when Sanders eventually walks, because someone will give him the shot he deserves, You can bet it'll come back to haunt this franchise in the worst way. And they won't be able to say they didn't see it coming. Everyone sees it. That's what makes it so infuriating. There's still time to salvage this, to admit the mistake, to course correct. But the clock is ticking. And every second they waste clinging to a broken system is a second they'll regret. This isn't about pressure. It's about reality. A quarterback with elite skills, team backing, and professional maturity is being deliberately sidelined by an organization too scared to admit it's been wrong. That's not just a bad look. It's a disaster in slow motion. So here's the bottom line. Start him. Now, stop pretending. Stop protecting old mistakes. Stop trying to spin a narrative that nobody's buying. Let Sanders lead. Let the players rally. Let the fans believe again. Because if the Browns keep waiting for the right time, they'll wake up and realize that time already passed, and it's not coming back. At this point, it's not even about football anymore. It's about pride, ego, control. The Cleveland Browns have turned Shedeur Sanders from a football decision into a franchise referendum on trust, on leadership, on everything they claim to be building. And it's all unraveling in real time. You have a quarterback who's done everything right. Showed up, locked in, kept his head down, handled himself like a vet. No distractions, no diva behavior, no ego. Just work, accuracy, maturity, poise. Every trait that supposedly matters. Yet somehow that's not enough. Because in Cleveland, being ready doesn't mean you play. Being the best option doesn't mean you're the chosen one. Not when management is still too busy protecting yesterday's decisions to see what's right in front of them today. It's not that they haven't seen what Sanders can do. They've seen it. Everyone has. Insiders like Mary Kay Kitt have spoken out. Analysts are talking. Garrett Bush is straight up calling the franchise out for their mind games. And now, even the players are letting it slip, intentionally or not. The support is there. The frustration is there. The pressure is mounting, but the Browns are standing still, hoping the storm will pass. Spoiler, it won't. The longer they drag this out, the worse it gets. This isn't a quiet situation anymore. It's loud. It's national. It's public. And it's personal. For fans who watch this cycle repeat for years. For players who see their window to win shrinking. And most of all, for Shedeur himself, who has every right to be frustrated watching less capable quarterbacks take the field while he holds a clipboard. And let's be honest, he's not the one underperforming. The Browns' offense is inconsistent. The quarterback play has been shaky. The momentum is slipping. And yet, their solution isn't to try something new. It's to stick with the same script and act shocked when it keeps falling flat. It's insanity, dressed up in a franchise hoodie. And now they're boxed in. Because there is no good excuse left. They've played every card. Development, chemistry, timing, but those don't hold up anymore. Not when the team is sputtering. The locker room wants answers, and the fan base is louder than ever. So what's left? Delay, deny, deflect, pretend this is all part of a well-thought-out strategy instead of what it really is. Fear. Fear of change. Fear of admitting mistakes. Fear that if Shedeur takes the field and plays like they know he can, the lies fall apart. Because then it's not just about what he does now. It's about why they didn't let him do it sooner. And you can already hear the questions lining up. Why didn't you trust him? Why the delay? Why did you pretend he wasn't ready when all signs pointed otherwise? The answers? There aren't any good ones. Just the same old pattern of second-guessing, spin, and stalling. It's what's driven this franchise for years. Not a lack of talent, but a lack of conviction. They get the players. They build the roster. They flash potential. And then, just when it's time to take the leap, they hesitate. They hold back. They flinch. And every single time, it costs them. Sanders is just the latest chapter in a book Browns fans are tired of rereading. This was supposed to be different. They had the defense. They had the momentum. And now they have the quarterback. But leadership still can't get out of its own way. Still clinging to control. Still trying to manage perceptions while everything else crumbles underneath. And fans? They're done waiting. They've seen the patterns. They've seen the missed opportunities. They watched other teams take risks, empower young quarterbacks, and thrive. And now they're watching their own team, one with a real, visible, ready solution, choose to do nothing. How you defend that? You can't, because this isn't just about one game or one season. This is about the core of the organization, about what kind of team they want to be. A team that empowers its talent, or a team that buries it under fear, politics, and overthinking? Right now, the answer is clear, and it's not the one anyone wants. The Shedeur Sanders story has become the story, not just because he deserves to play, but because of what it says that he isn't playing. It says the Browns aren't ready to move forward, that they'd rather be comfortable than competitive, that they still believe control is more valuable than courage. And that belief is going to cost them, not just games, but trust. Trust from fans, trust from players, trust from the league. Eventually, Sanders will play, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, whether it's this season or next. And when that does, a lot of people are going to have to answer for why it took so long. And the worst part, they already know that day is coming. They're just hoping no one remembers how long they waited. If you've been following this saga and feel just as frustrated, hit that like button, drop a comment, and tell us what you think is really going on. And make sure to subscribe, because this story isn't slowing down. And when the Browns finally run out of excuses, we'll be right here, keeping receipts.